Unbelievable secrets revealed. 7 heartwarming moves transform your legs after 70 for incredible resilience. Helen stared out at the familiar backyard where kids once played on swing sets, their laughter echoing like a beautiful melody. Now, the scene felt muted, heavy with the weight of her recent knee surgery. At 72, the thought of being defined by her age haunted her. "You're too old to try new things," she'd heard whispered at coffee shop tables. Or worse yet, "Just take it easy, Helen." Anxiety coiled in her stomach like a tight spring, but she craved movement. Connection Life. One morning, as she shuffled through her routine, Helen spotted a flyer pinned up at the local bakery. Discover the 7 heartwarming moves. Apprehension mingled with hope. Following her instincts, she found her way to the community center that warm Wednesday evening. Stepping inside felt like peeling off a suffocating blanket. She was greeted with the laughter of familiar faces, all vibrant with stories and resilience. The moment she joined the circle, something began to shift inside her. They shared tales of knee injuries, broken hearts, and bouncing back with smiles over strong coffee. This group wasn't just talking, they were thriving, breathing life into the moment. The moves weren't just exercises, they were their collective heartbeat. Every laugh a pulse of renewed energy. As the gathering unfolded, Helen felt herself becoming lighter. "This isn't just for me. This is for us," she thought, her spirit igniting. The memories of potlucks and neighborhood barbecues returned, laughter wrapping around her like a warm hug. She began to move, tentatively at first, but with each heartwarming move, her confidence surged, a bright sun breaking through shrouded clouds. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. But just as they began to find their rhythm, a young fitness influencer burst through the door, a whirlwind of energy and bright colors. The room lit up, excitement blending with jealousy among the older group. The potential for fame sparkled brightly in the influencer's eyes, casting shadows over the wisdom of Helen and her friends. They were torn. What had felt like their secret haven now felt invaded. Helen's spark reignited the flame within her, but she felt the distance growing between her and her daughter, who had been watching the transformation unfold. Unappreciated and alone, her daughter's resentment boiled beneath the surface. Tension hung in the air like a storm cloud. One fateful night, Helen found herself on stage at the community center. The crowd's eyes were glued to her. They felt her urgency. "We can redefine what aging means," she clamored, challenging stereotypes that felt like chains. But then her daughter was there, heartbroken, tears brimming. The weight of their unaddressed wounds threatened to overshadow Helen's message. Would she choose to persist in claiming her newfound identity, or lean in to bridge the gap with her daughter? The moment stretched, filled with promise, as the room held its breath, aching for connection. Would this whirlwind of change strengthen their family ties, or create a rift deeper than age itself? The answer loomed like a story unfinished, and the community leaned in, eager to witness the transformation still to come. The moment lingered, heavy with unspoken words. Helen could see the confusion in her daughter's eyes, a storm of emotion swirling beneath the surface. She desperately wanted to close the distance. "I'm not just your mother," she thought. "I'm also a woman rediscovering herself." Taking a deep breath, Helen shifted her focus back to the audience. Growing older doesn't mean fading away. It can mean blossoming in unexpected ways. The crowd murmured in agreement, nodding, their interest rekindled. Yet, Helen's heart clenched at the sight of her daughter's tears. Every heartbeat echoed a question. How could she be both a vibrant individual and a mother? After the event, the two women found themselves alone in the dimly lit hallway. Helen's heart raced, unsure of what to say. "I just want you to understand," she began, but her voice faltered as her daughter's gaze pierced through her. "Understand what? You're chasing these dreams without me," her daughter shot back, the hurt evident in her tone. The walls felt like they were closing in on Helen. "I'm not doing this to push you away," she finally managed to say. "I'm trying to find something that has been lost, something for both of us. Maybe you don't see me? Maybe you don't see the sacrifices I've made." The words hung in the air, raw and jagged. Everyone else in the room faded away, leaving just Helen and her daughter in this storm of emotions. Helen felt anger rising inside, but beneath it lay a deep ache of guilt. Would pursuing her happiness mean ignoring her daughter's needs? "Let me show you," Helen finally replied, her voice steadier now. "Come to our next meeting. You'll see, you'll understand." Her daughter crossed her arms defensively. "What if I don't want to see? What if I'm tired of pretending everything is fine?" The vulnerability in her daughter's voice cracked through Helen's heart, making her realize that this confrontation was more than just frustration. It was an opportunity. An opportunity to reconnect in a way they both needed. "I understand why you feel that way," Helen said softly. "I can't promise everything will change overnight, but we need to talk, really talk. No more pretending." That night, as Helen walked home, she felt lighter, despite the emotional weight. The possibility of healing hovered like a flickering candle in her heart. "Maybe we can rebuild our relationship," she mused, glancing at the stars. But doubt still lingered in the back of her mind. Just as she reclaimed her identity, would she be able to find common ground with her daughter? Days passed, the anticipation of the next gathering building inside her. Helen practiced the moves, her body growing stronger and more agile with each session. But the thought of her daughter's reluctance loomed large. Would her invitation to join be met with an open heart, or would it only deepen the chasm between them? As the sun set on the evening of the meeting, Helen stood in front of the mirror, smoothing her hair, replaying their conversation in her mind. Would her daughter show up? Would she embrace this journey, or turn away again? Hope intermingled with anxiety. If we face this together, maybe we won't just find strength in movement. Maybe we'll find it in each other. The community center buzzed with excitement as Helen arrived, her heart racing in rhythm with the pulsing energy around her. Would tonight bring the connections and healing she so desperately sought, or only more distance? As she scanned the crowd, the doors swung open and her breath hitched. There stood her daughter, hesitating in the doorway. The moment of truth approached. Would Helen's heart hold strong for what was about to unfold? Helen's heart thundered in her chest as her daughter stepped inside, the bright lights of the community center illuminating the strain in her face. For a moment, time seemed to freeze. The anticipation in the air felt electric, crackling with potential. What would her daughter say? Would she retreat into her bubble of hurt, or would she take a step forward? "Mom," her daughter whispered, her voice barely audible over the hum of the crowd. It was both a question and an invitation. Helen felt an overwhelming urge to run to her, to embrace her tightly and promise that everything would be okay. But she stood frozen, rooted in place like a tree in a storm. "Hey," Helen finally managed, forcing a smile that felt shaky at best. "I'm glad you came." Her daughter's gaze darted around the room, taking in the lively atmosphere, the animated conversations, the laughter spilling over like water from a cup. "I didn't know if I should. It just all feels complicated," she replied, her arms still crossed defensively. "It is complicated," Helen agreed. "But that doesn't mean we can't be in it together." Moving deeper into the room, Helen took a chance and reached for her daughter's hand. "Let us just try," she said quietly, her heart hoping for a softening. Reluctantly, her daughter uncrossed her arms and grasped her mother's hand. That small gesture felt monumental, like an uncharted path opening before them. They approached the circle of participants, a diverse mix of ages and backgrounds, all laughter and movement, ready to share in the evening's activities. The class began with energetic introductions and light stretching, the instructor's voice encouraging and warm. As Helen joined in, feeling the music pulse through her, she glanced back at her daughter, who stood awkwardly, still unsure. "Just move," Helen urged, the rhythm lifting her spirits. "No one is watching you." After a moment's hesitation, her daughter began to sway gently, her movements tentative but growing more confident. Helen couldn't help but smile. Her heart soared at this small victory. With each beat, the energy in the room rose, and soon they were all moving together, arms outstretched and laughter spilling out like sunshine. Helen turned to catch her daughter's eye, and for the first time, she saw a flicker of joy beneath the apprehension. "See?" Helen shouted over the music. "It's about feeling free." Her daughter nodded, an infectious smile breaking through. The weight of their earlier confrontation of hurt and misunderstanding seemed to lift like fog under warmth. Together, they danced, lost in the moment, and the worries that had once loomed so large began to fade. Around them, the room felt more alive than ever. A sense of belonging enveloped them, the exuberance of shared movement fostering a connection Helen had longed for. "Maybe we'll find healing here," she thought, feeling hope surge through her. As the class came to an end, the instructor encouraged everyone to share something they felt grateful for. Helen's heart raced. Would her daughter speak up? "I'm grateful for being here with my mom," her daughter announced, her voice steady, surprising even herself. The words hung in the air, drawing appreciative murmurs from the others. Helen's eyes stummed with tears of relief and joy. Maybe tonight was a turning point. But just as they turned to leave, Helen's phone buzzed in her pocket. With a frown, she pulled it out, her heart sinking as she read the message. It was from an old friend, someone she hadn't spoken to in years, someone who held secrets that could unravel everything. "Mom, what is wrong?" her daughter asked, sensing the shift in energy. How could she explain the wave of anxiety crashing over her? Would revealing this secret jeopardize everything they just began to rebuild? With her heart in turmoil, Helen faced her daughter, torn between two worlds. "Nothing's wrong," she lied, but the uncertainty flickered in her eyes. What had she just begun to repair, only to have it put in jeopardy? The road ahead felt uncertain, yet they had taken a brave step. Would they continue to move forward together, or would old secrets tear them apart again? Helen's mind raced as she stood there, caught in this moment of impending disaster. Her daughter's curiosity pierced through the uncertainty, and Helen felt the weight of the message suffocating her. It was as if the air around her had thickened, each breath a struggle. She glanced at her daughter, whose eyes were searching with earnestness. "Mom, please, you don't have to hide from me," her daughter said softly, the warmth in her voice urging Helen to open up. "I can tell something's bothering you." Helen forced a smile, but the truth was tangled in her throat. "It's just old stuff," she said, trying to project calm. "Things that don't matter anymore." Yet she knew they did. The past was an insistent shadow, and secrets were like dust bunnies gathering in the corners of their relationship. Not dealing with them could lead them further down a path of silence, and that scared her more than anything. "Can we talk about it?" her daughter asked, taking a tentative step closer. It was a brave move. Helen admired the courage. She could see glimpses of the little girl she once knew, unafraid of anything as long as they were together. Helen hesitated. "Not right now. This moment it means too much." "Mom, we just shared something amazing," her daughter protested. "You don't have to protect me from the truth. I need to know you're okay." The sincerity in her voice tugged at Helen's heart. There she stood, blossoming, battling with past pain while reaching for connection. Helen felt the heat of her daughter's concern and confusion crashing against her walls. Okay. The word wobbled out of Helen's mouth, barely audible, but it hung heavy in the air. She looked around the room, where laughter still echoed and bodies moved freely, unaware of the turmoil brewing in their small world. But not here. Where then? Her daughter replied, tilting her head slightly, eyes unwavering. Let us go for ice cream, Helen suggested, her heart pounding in trepidation. We can talk there. Her daughter's expression shifted, a flicker of excitement lighting up her face. Ice cream sounds good, she explained, but then it faded as she remembered the shadows lurking. But you mean about what is wrong, right? Yeah, Helen answered genuinely, her heart open to the possibility. Just not here. As they stepped out of the community center, the vibrant sounds faded behind them, replaced by the cool night air. Helen linked arms with her daughter, feeling the warmth of her presence. They walked in a companionable silence that felt almost foreign, but necessary. The city lights reflected in her daughter's eyes, dancing playfully, and that flicker of joy returned as they neared the ice cream parlor. Once there, they ordered their favorite flavors, the laughter and chatter of fellow customers providing a comforting background. Helen watched as her daughter took her first bite, savoring the joy of that simple pleasure. See? The world feels lighter with a scoop of mint chocolate chip, her daughter said, laughter sparkling in her eyes. Not entirely convinced, Helen took a bite. The sweetness melted against her tongue, but an ache throbbed in her chest. Shifting in her seat, she squeezed her daughter's hand, green eyes catching the light like emeralds. Okay, Helen began, her heart racing. She drew a deep breath, the creamy mix of flavors swirling with the weight of her words. There is something I need to tell you. Before she could finish, the door swung open. A figure stepped into the parlor, and Helen froze, her pulse quickening. The unexpected sight jolted her entirely, words caught now like a fish on a line. Her heart raced as she recognized the familiar face, the old friend. Helen! The figure called out, their voice cutting through her thoughts. What had she just begun to open up about, only to have it challenged by someone who could unravel everything? Helen, is that really you? The tension in the room shifted, leaving Helen breathless. She had hoped for a moment of healing, but now it was anything but certain. Helen's heart pounded, a wild drumbeat echoing in her ears as she spotted Mia, the friend from her distant past. It felt like a portal had opened to another life, one Helen had carefully packed away, never intending to revisit. She struggled to find her voice, her breath catching as a whirlwind of memories flooded in good and bad, each one vying for precedence. Mia, she finally managed, her voice cracking slightly. The years peeled away in an instant, leaving a rush of nostalgia and dread. Her daughter looked back and forth between them, confusion written all over her face. What a surprise! I haven't seen you since. Mia's voice trailed off, uncertainty cracking her typically confident tone. Since that summer on the lake. Yes, Helen replied, forcing a smile that felt more like a grimace. It's been a while. She could see the change in Mia's eyes as they darted, taking in the sight of her and her daughter. Is this your? Mia gestured, her confusion only growing. Yes, my daughter. Helen felt a swell of pride despite the tension. Erica. Erica smiled, eyes sparkling with curiosity, but her mother sensed the underlying question that weighed heavily in the air. Why hadn't she heard about Mia? What are you doing here? Helen asked, her voice steady yet laced with unspoken resentment. Mia shifted slightly, her expression shifting to something almost apologetic. I moved back to town. Got a new job at the school. Guess I'm back to face my demons, she said, an awkward laugh escaping her lips. And I just ran into you out of the blue. Helen felt the walls beginning to close around her, the ice cream parlor buzzing and swirling with life in stark contrast to the tension hanging in the air. She felt a tug of anger and confusion. She had fought to leave it all behind, yet here it was, effortlessly pulling her back in. "This isn't a good time, Mia," Helen said curtly, her patience wearing thin. Mia opened her mouth, but before her thoughts could spill out, Helen's daughter interjected. Mom was just the sight of her daughter's searching eyes made Helen's heart twist. She couldn't expose Erica to this tempest. "It's okay, sweetheart," Helen said, low to soothe the alarm in her daughter's voice. "Look, I understand you might not want to talk, but we really should catch up. There's a lot I need to I want to apologize for," Mia said, her vulnerability catching Helen off guard. For a split second, Helen's defenses faltered. "Apologize? For what?" Her voice was sharper than she intended, confusion battling with pain. Erica watched the interplay, her small hands still entwined in her mother's. "What happened?" Mia shifted uncomfortably, tears welling in her eyes. "It's complicated," she almost whispered, "but it doesn't have to stay that way." The sincerity in Mia's voice cut through the negativity, leaving Helen feeling uneasy yet oddly curious. Could this be the moment for a long-awaited reckoning? "Maybe someday," Helen murmured, each word laced with heavy reluctance. "Please," Mia urged, her voice soft, cracking. "I want to explain." Helen's pulse pounded in her ears, part of her wanting to escape, but she couldn't deny that a spark of interest flickered inside. Unpacking the past scared her. It shook the core of her carefully built world. "Let me consult my daughter first," she murmured, casting a hopeful yet steeped glance at Erica. Could they face the truths together? "Yes, Mom," Erica said, her voice steady, filled with unexpected courage. "We can talk to her." All eyes turned back to Mia. The air between them shimmered with potential at dangerous crossroads where old hurts could either heal or reopen fresh wounds. Helen inhaled sharply, trying to summon the strength for a decision that could change everything. Just as she gathered her thoughts, fully ready to engage with the past, the room erupted with laughter. Someone had knocked an ice cream cone to the floor, a reminder that the world kept spinning even in moments like these. As chaos danced in the background, an unsettling question lingered. Would facing the past help them reconcile, or would they lose everything they had now? Mia's gaze flickered between Helen and Erica, an invisible thread of tension binding them. The laughter from the surrounding tables faded into a distant hum, overshadowed by the weight of the moment. Helen's heart raced, each beat echoing her internal battle. Could she really invite this chapter back into her life? "Maybe we could talk," Helen finally said, drawing a breath that felt heavy with doubt. "But it needs to be in a more private place." She shivered slightly at the thought of their past deeds being shared in public. "Of course," Mia replied quickly, relief washing over her features. "How about the coffee shop down the street? It's quieter." Helen nodded, glancing at Erica, who looked both eager and nervous. "What do you think, sweetheart?" Erica gripped her mother's hand tighter, her grip both reassuring and grounding. "I want to hear what she has to say, Mom." With a soft smile meant to ease her daughter, Helen squeezed Erica's hand back. "All right, Mia. Let us go." They moved to the coffee shop, an unassuming little place nestled among bustling storefronts. The aroma of roasting beans enveloped them like a warm embrace as they settled into a secluded corner booth. Helen felt a flicker of unease as she observed Mia. The once familiar girl was now a woman draped in minute signs of wear, a few laugh lines etched into her face, hints of uncertainty clouding her expression. "What brings you back to town after all this time?" Helen started, an edge creeping into her tone despite her desire to keep things civil. Mia stirred her coffee, her eyes clouding with memories. "I needed a fresh start. The last few years have been hard." Helen raised an eyebrow. The vague response didn't sit well with her. "Hard? How exactly?" Mia swallowed, the knot of emotions tightening in her throat. I lost my mother recently. It made me rethink everything, the friendships I let go. Especially ours. The confession struck Helen unexpectedly. She wasn't certain whether to feel compassion or resentment. You let our friendship go, Mia. I was young and stupid, Mia confessed, her voice ringing with genuine regret. And I hurt you in ways that I never wanted. I didn't just lose our connection, I lost myself. Erica observed intently, absorbing every word. Helen felt the need to shield her from the raw intensity of this reunion, while also knowing it was important for her daughter to understand the complexities of relationships. Why now? Helen pressed, her tone softening a fraction. Why reach out after all these years? Because I want to make amends, Helen. I've spent years thinking about you, about us, and I'm ready to face what I did. You deserve to know. Mia's eyes glistened with a truth that made Helen's heart flutter. An unexpected surge of empathy began to thread through her defenses. Perhaps there was more to this than she had allowed herself to believe. All those moments of shared laughter, the deep conversations filled with dreams and secrets rushed back to her. They were tangled with heartache and betrayal, but also with a fierce bond that Helen had fought to forget. Fine, Helen exhaled, steeling herself for whatever was coming next. Tell me everything. At that moment, the weight of years hung in the air, thick with unresolved feelings. Erica leaned closer, her eyes wide with intent and innocence. As Mia began to speak, Helen felt the ground shifting beneath her, the fragile foundation she had built beginning to tremble. This was about to unfold in ways she never imagined, and just as a deeper truth seemed within reach, a figure entered the cafe, a familiar face from her past that Helen had hoped never to see again. Her heart dropped. Would this encounter now tear apart what was beginning to heal? The figure paused at the entrance, letting the door swing back with a soft thud, and a familiar heart-stopping sensation rolled through Helen. It was Mark, her old partner, the man she had not seen since the painful shattering of their life together. He looked older, but that same easy confidence still radiated from him. His eyes dashed around the cafe until they landed on her, sparking an immediate current of tension. "Helen?" he called, surprise etched into his features as he approached, the bustling cafe fading around them. In that moment, everything froze. Mia halted mid-sentence, her mouth open, the words trailing off like smoke. Erica, sensing the shift, clutched her mother's hand tighter, her small fingers trembling. Helen fought to gather her composure, her mind racing. Was this the moment she had dreaded? Could she handle the weight of unanswered questions brewing between them? "Mark," she managed, her voice sounding distant, like it belonged to someone else. "I didn't expect to see you here," he said, his tone too casual, as if they hadn't shared years filled with happiness and heartbreak. "Yeah, well, life has a funny way of surprising us," she replied, not quite able to meet his gaze. The buzz of conversations around them resumed, but the air crackled with unspoken words. Mark looked to Mia and Erica, confusion washing over him. "I just came in for a coffee." "What is going on?" Helen's heart raced again. This wasn't just about her and Mia anymore. Suddenly, old wounds threatened to bleed anew. "Mia and I were," Helen started but stopped short, unsure if revealing this history would help or hurt. Reconnecting, Mia completed for her, a confident tone edging back into her voice. "We were just starting to understand our past." Mark's brow furrowed. "Your past? After all this time?" Erica, always the perceptive one, shifted slightly, taking in the spread of emotions. They were best friends, but things changed. Her eyes darted between the three adults, the tension palpable. Mark's jaw tightened. "I see." There was an unyielding silence after that. Helen could feel her heart frantic against her ribs. This was not how she envisioned today going, not with the fragile bridge being built between her and Mia. "Can we talk?" Mark pressed, his voice low, almost vulnerable. He took a step closer, as if subconsciously hoping to close the distance, but Helen felt more cornered than ever. The last thing she wanted was to dredge up old battles in front of her daughter, especially when feelings conflicted and tangled inside her like weeds. But she saw something in Mark's eyes, a flicker of hope mingled with deep regret that begged for acknowledgement. "No," she finally said, her voice steadier than she felt. "This isn't the time." Mia exchanged a glance with Helen, and in that moment, the bond they were trying to reconstruct swayed precariously, edging dangerously close to collapse with Mark's presence. "Maybe you should go," Mia suggested gently, her voice full of understanding yet firm. Mark's facade cracked just a little, revealing the uncertainty beneath. "I don't want to interrupt anything important," he said, his voice shaky. "I just thought maybe we could Mark." Helen stopped him, the weight of her firm resolve grounding her. "Let us not do this here. Not with her, not like this." A tense silence stretched across the table. Helen's heart raced again, but this time, a sliver of clarity emerged. The past had a strange way of entwining with the present, but maybe it was time to confront it head-on. With Mia's acknowledgement and Erica's presence, she might just find a way to stand strong. As Mark took a step back, dejection evident on his face, Helen could feel the air shift again, this time filled with possibilities rather than despair. But just as that glimmer of hope ignited within her, Mia's phone buzzed insistently on the table. She picked it up, her expression changing to one of concern. "I need to take this," she said quickly. Helen watched as Mia walked away to take the call, her heart thudding heavily in her chest. She glanced back at Mark, only to see his features tightening with uncertainty. This moment was a flashpoint, and Helen could feel the ground beneath her shifting again, hinting at the emotional upheaval yet to come. And just then, Erica spoke up softly, her innocence cutting through the tension. "Mom, is everything okay?" With her heart in her throat, Helen met her daughter's gaze, aware that the way she answered could reshape the path of their lives together. Would she be honest about the storm of emotions swirling within, or would she protect Erica from the complexities of adult heartache? This moment held the weight of not just the past, but the fragile beginnings of healing and potential betrayal. Would they weather the storm together, or would the skies open up and drown their progress? Erica's wide eyes searched her mother's, filled with concern and innocence. That gaze threatened to unravel the careful facade Helen had built around her emotions. She took a shaky breath, drawing strength from deep within, attempting to suppress the turbulence roiling inside her. "Yeah, sweetheart, everything's fine," Helen finally said, her voice barely above a whisper. But even as she spoke the words, she questioned her honesty. How could she define fine? Nothing was fine when Mark stood just a few feet away, igniting memories that had long lain dormant yet never truly extinguished. Mia was still on the phone, her back turned, likely discussing something mundane. But Helen couldn't shake the feeling that every second stretched on painfully, each tick of the clock amplifying the tension. Mark shifted uncomfortably, stealing glances between Helen and Erica, a mix of confusion and hurt evident on his face. "Do you want me to go?" he asked quietly, the edge of vulnerability seeping into his tone. Helen wanted to scream that he didn't get it, that he couldn't just ask to step back into her life after years apart, as if it was simple. But all she could muster was a weak shake of her head. I need time." Erica squeezed her hand tighter, as if sensing the fissures opening under their carefully constructed life. With every passing moment, Helen felt the urge to protect her daughter swell, urging her to shield her from the pain of the past. But how could she do that when the shadows of yesterday still loomed over them? Mark took a small step closer, his expression softening, and maybe that was what made her heart ache even more. "I'm sorry, Helen. I never wanted to hurt you. I just thought I know what you thought." Her voice grew firmer, tinted with frustration and sadness. "You thought time and distance would erase everything. But it doesn't work like that. Erica shifted on her chair, her small face contorting, as if trying to absorb the gravity around them. Mom, why is he here? Helen met her daughter's gaze, unable to provide a clear answer. He is someone from my past. A very complicated part of my life. The air held its breath, waiting for the inevitable explosion. Mark inhaled deeply, his next words carrying the weight of years. I never stopped caring about you. I didn't know how to reach out. At that moment, Mia returned, her expression alert as she sensed the charged atmosphere instantly. Is everything okay? She asked, eyeing the two adults at the precipice of confrontation. Just discussing old times, Mark replied, a hint of sarcasm edging his voice, but it was more than that. It was a plea either for comprehension or forgiveness, not that he could have known what silence lay ahead. Helen clenched her fist beneath the table, realizing that every member of this ephemeral gathering was now entwined in an unbreakable thread woven from hurt and longing. The cafe around them buzzed with life, but inside this bubble time stood still. She caught Mia's gaze drifting towards them, uncertainty flickering across her face. Maybe we should all just sit down, Mia suggested, stepping into the void bravely, the strength of her youth shining through. Together. Helen's heart swelled with admiration for Mia's courage, even as dread threatened to consume her. Could the weight of their combined stories, her past, Mark's regret, Mia's confusion, come crashing down in a way that wouldn't splinter the present they were trying to build? Yeah, let us just talk, Helen said, her voice wavering. Erica nodded, slightly bemused but willing to dive deeper. Mark's gaze flickered between the two of them, a mixture of guilt and hope flaring up within him. I do like that. Let us talk. The confrontation loomed on the horizon, heavy with unvoiced questions. Yet, deep down, a different kind of hope flickered, a desire to mend, to understand, to finally expose the truth. But just as Helen braced herself for the inevitable storm of emotions, her phone chimed in her pocket. With a heavy heart, she glanced at the screen, and what she saw made her blood run cold. She had just received a message that threatened to shatter everything she believed to know, and it was one she couldn't ignore. Mom? What is it? Erica asked, sensing the shift in her mother's demeanor. The specter of uncertainty loomed even larger, and Helen knew she had to make a choice. Could she shed light on the shadows without drowning in them? What would that mean for them all? As she stood at the precipice, the question loomed, heavy and pressing. What truth was she willing to face? And who would be there when the dust settled? Helen felt her heart pound as she stared at her phone, the screen illuminating her thoughts with a harsh white light. It was a message from a number she hadn't recognized, but the words within sent a chill up her spine. We need to talk. It's about him. Just that simple phrase carried enough weight to tilt her whole world off its axis. Mark's hesitant voice pulled her back into the moment. Helen, he said softly, is everything okay? His eyes were filled with a mixture of concern and impatience. Erica, still gripping her mother's hand tightly, stared back and forth between Helen and Mark. The innocence in her gaze made Helen's heart ache deeper. Mom? Are we in trouble? Helen allowed herself a moment to breathe. How could she begin to untangle the mess that had built over the years? No, sweetheart, she managed, forcing a smile that felt foreign on her lips. Just something I need to think about. Mia, sensing the tension lingering like smoke in the air, stepped closer. You can tell me anything, Mom. I'm here for you. Her voice was steady and reassuring, a pillar amidst the chaos. But how could Helen share the truth? Not just the truth about Mark, but the trembling fear that gripped her heart at the thought of what lay ahead. She thought about the decision she had to make, the risk it brought for Erica, and how much depended on her next words. I think we should talk, Mark urged, his voice a mixture of longing and regret. Please, I want to explain. She looked at him, really looked at him. This was the man who had once filled her heart, who now stood like a ghost of their former life. What if he was still that person? What if he wasn't he? Okay, but let us keep this simple, she said, the weight of the decision pressing her down. We're in a public place, and I don't want to upset Erica. Mark nodded slowly, and the hint of relief shadowed his features. He glanced over at Erica. What do you know about me? Her heart sank. This wasn't just about them anymore. It involved their daughter too. She knows enough, Helen responded, her voice breaking slightly as she narrowed her focus on Erica. There are things you don't need to understand, yet. Erica tilted her head, confusion blending with concern. But Mom, why does it feel like he is a stranger? Helen's chest tightened at her daughter's naivety. Because some people leave and come back hoping it's all okay, she said, her voice trembling. Mia stepped forward. It's okay to be confused, Erica. Life is complicated. Sometimes people make mistakes. With that, silence enveloped the table like a heavy blanket. The buzz of the cafe faded, the clinking of coffee cups and chatter making way for the raw emotions laid bare in front of them. Helen felt as if her heart were being pulled in 3 different directions toward the past with Mark, the present with Erica, and into an uncertain future. Suddenly, her phone buzzed again, breaking the silence like a gunshot. Helen hesitated, her breath caught in her throat. If this message held any more secrets needing to be revealed, could she handle it? Are you going to read it? Mark asked, his voice low, filled with an urgency that made her stomach twist. Mia nodded encouragingly. You need to know if it can help. With trembling fingers, she opened the message again, her eyes widening at the familiar name at the bottom. It was someone she thought she'd never hear from again. Someone connected deeply to Mark's past and dangerously to her own. Who is it? Erica asked innocently, the tension building again in the space around them. Helen took a deep breath, the impending storm within her almost palpable. It's someone from my old life. Someone who could change everything. As the weight of that statement settled, Helen realized she stood on the brink of revealing more than she'd ever intended. What lay on the other side of this truth? Could she summon the courage to confront it? Mom, what do you mean? Erica pressed further, unaware of the gravity that threatened to sweep them all away. Helen met their gazes, feeling the floor sway beneath her. Did she dare to dive deeper into the waters of her past? Would they all drown among the secrets she'd tried so hard to conceal? And as the clock ticked, tension seeped into the air, she came to a silent realization. She had to find the words to reveal everything. The journey to understanding might just begin with this moment, with this choice. But would everyone survive the truth? The moment held its breath, hovering on the edge of the unspoken words. Helen glanced at Mark, whose eyes mirrored the tumult churning within her. She could feel her daughter's small hand gripping hers, a grounding force in a sky filled with impending storms. All her years of suppressing pain, of dancing around truths that would shatter conversations, seemed to boil down to this very moment. Erica, Helen started, her voice steadying as she turned her focus to her daughter. There are some things about my past that I thought I could keep hidden. But you deserve the truth. We all do. Erica's brow furrowed in confusion, but there was courage in her gaze. Mom, you can tell me anything, she encouraged, her voice so innocent yet heavy with expectation. Mia looked on, the resolve in her own heart strengthening. Helen, we're here with you, she said softly, a reminder of the bridges they could still build amidst this uncertainty. With a deep breath, Helen continued, years ago, before I moved here, before I had you. Her words trembled slightly, but she pressed on. Mark and I had a life that ended badly. I thought by cutting ties, I could start fresh. Mark's expression shifted, a flicker of pain coursing through him. That's not how it was meant to be, Helen, he interjected, trying to ease the tension. The fire in her heart threatened to react, to ignite into a full confrontation, yet part of her recognized the weight of his regret. Not how it was meant to be. You don't get to rewrite history, Mark, she shot back, anger and vulnerability spilling into the open space, clashing like thunderclouds about to unleash. You made choices that hurt me. Choices that hurt us. Erica's face registered hurt and confusion. Mom, why are you telling us this now? Because I want you to see that everyone makes mistakes, Helen replied, her voice softer now, and some mistakes carry consequences. But secrets have a way of binding us up, and it's time to let them unravel. Mom, I don't want to hear about you and him. I want to know why you didn't want me to know, Erica said, her words like an arrow, piercing through the thick fog. Was it because of me? Tears welled in Helen's eyes as her heart ached. No. It was never about you. It was about me trying to protect us. She turned to Mark, desperately seeking clarity. What is in the shadows needs to come to light, don't you think? Mark nodded, but she could see the fear in his eyes. I've made mistakes, Helen. I didn't want this to go on to find you both at this threshold. But you have to know I've changed. As the weight of his words filled the air, Helen took a moment, her heart fluttering with a mix of hope and fear. Then let us face the past together. She turned to Mia, glancing at her daughter. We have both been through so much. Erica finally removed her hand from Helen's grip, her gaze shifting between the adults. Can we all be honest? Not just polite. That's the goal, sweetheart, Helen replied as she felt a smile forming through the sorrow. Mark shifted nervously. I want you both to know I never stopped thinking of you, Helen. Not once. I've spent years wishing I could take back the hurt. His vulnerability cut through Helen like a fresh wound, but she sensed a glimmer of sincerity that ignited something, an ember of hope. Maybe we all need to step into the light together, Mia suggested, her encouragement warming the air around them. Helen nodded, taking back control of the narrative. Let us not just dwell on the past, she said firmly. Let us talk about healing, about moving forward. Erica's eyes brightened. Can we go to the community center again? That place felt so alive. Yes, Helen agreed, a fresh burst of excitement kindled in her chest. It feels right. We can embrace this journey as a family, learn from each other. Mark hesitated, glancing at Helen, a flicker of uncertainty dancing in his eyes. But what if we're too broken to fix? We're not broken, Erica asserted bravely. We're just learning how to be whole again. In that moment, the past seemed to fall away, and anticipation replaced fear. The connections they forged today felt real, tangible. As they left the cafe and stepped into the soft glow of the evening, Helen's heart felt lighter, steadier. Together, she whispered, locking eyes with both her daughter and Mia. This is the first step. They moved forward, an intertwining of lives, shadowed histories, and hopeful futures. Each step carried a collective rhythm, hearts healing under the warmth of shared vulnerability, each heartbeat marking the promise of something new. Helen took a deep breath, filling her lungs with possibility. This was hope. This was resilience. And as they walked on, hand in hand, a bright new chapter awaited them. The journey was just beginning, their hearts open to healing and love, leaving behind the burdens of yesterday, forging bonds that would shine through the challenges of tomorrow. It was in this moment, free of the past's weight, that they truly learned to dance as a family once more. Now, as you feel that spark of inspiration and transformation within you, you need to subscribe to this channel immediately. Don't miss out on the next exclusive stories that promise to inspire and uplift. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, making it possible for others to experience these heartwarming journeys. Comment below with your reactions, feelings, and reflections about this emotional conclusion, because your thoughts matter, and share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformative message. You must know this is the moment to show your support. Don't wait not even one more second to share the love.